the Swiss were actually the first to use it for battle as well as their military. Basically what they would do is that they would use the fife and drum corps to coordinate different battle movements, battle calls, as well as camp life. You would have different calls in the morning to wake the soldiers up, very similar to today. One of those tunes was called Reveille, also a drummer's call. You would have a roast beef call, that way you could tell your soldiers when it was time to eat. And a tattoo call, which would tell the soldiers it was time to go to sleep. Now, this all started in the 15th century. The Swiss used it, and the battle that they actually first used it in was called the Battle of Marignane, which they were successful in beating a vastly larger Italian army. Now, here at Tryon Palace, the reason that we have a fife and drum corps is because we know that in 1770, while Governor Tryon was here, we had what was called the Battle of Alamance. Basically, you had these people out in Alamance, North Carolina, who were very upset with Governor Tryon about the building of the palace because they know that they were spending a lot of tax dollars to build this palace, and they were probably never going to actually see the palace themselves. So they were very upset. These people were called the regulators, and they ended up going to battle with Governor Tryon. Now, we know for this battle, Governor Tryon purchased 6 field drums, very similar to the ones that we carry. He also probably had some fifes, but they are of simpler construction, so he probably would have been able to get those locally, where he had to go to England to get the drums that he had. Now we're going to pull out Miranda Hill, our drum sergeant, to talk a little bit about the drum that she's carrying.
My instrument is the snare drum. It's constructed of a single-piece wooden barrel called a shell. It has 2 heads, one on top, which is the batter head, and one on bottom, which is the snare head. The snare drum here give it its crisp, distinguishable sound. The drum is held together by these 2 red wooden hoops, which are held together by the ropes and the ears, which tighten and also help the snares to deliver the sound. Modern drumming was similar to 18th century drumming. You had 26 simple rudiments that often sound just as they were played. For example, we have a parrot, a rough, and then your basic roll. You put these together and you get a drum beat.
Our fife sergeant.
The construction of a fife is a lot simpler than a drum, although it doesn't necessarily make it a lot easier to play. My fife is made out of a single wooden barrel. You have a cork at the end with the mouth hole, so that way when you blow across, it pushes all the air out towards one end. This fife has 6 finger holes, although some of them can get kind of complex and have 10 finger holes, and they can be 2 pieces as well. When you're reading fife music, you're actually reading it an octave below what you're playing, just because the fife is so high pitched that if you were to have the actual notes where they were written, it would be impossible to read the music. The fife paired with the drum can be heard over 3 miles away, so that's why it made the perfect instrument to be played during battle. You have 3 different octaves that you can play with a fife, and different fingerings to each different notes, and so when you put them together, you can get a tune like this one.
Military and business, but what's going to happen when you put a bunch of musicians together? They're going to write their own tunes for entertainment. So we're going to play a couple of those tunes that you would have heard back in the 18th century, and the first one is called York's March. Fifes and drums. Attention! next battle we will be playing is called Roastery and the Asa Rock. Watch the drum. Attention. last 2 songs were called First of September and To Change Today. Now the next song that we will be playing, most of you should recognize, is called Yankee Doodle, and then the next tune we'll be playing is Chester. Yankee Doodle is one of the most well-known tunes that is still around as a nursery rhyme from the Revolutionary era. So we'll be playing that for you guys, and that will conclude our performance today. Thank you all very much for coming out today to come see us, and if you have any questions after the performance, feel free to find myself, Lindsay Weatherington, or Miranda Hill. After the performance, we can answer those questions for you. Thank you. Watch the drums. Attention.